Welcome everybody to the Safe Network webinar on e-teen bike riding. I'm Deborah Kagan. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition. And this is part of a series of webinars that we do with the support of the Division of Highway Traffic Safety. Today is a very important topic. We have lots of interest. People are good, I see, are continuing to come in. So thank you all for coming. This is particularly a tragic moment for us here in New Jersey. Those of you who saw the recent tragic fatalities of two teenagers in Cranford, followed up by last week's additional fatality for someone riding an e-bike. So this is unfortunately a very hot topic at this moment, and we're really glad that you've all joined us and that we have some great speakers here to give us some information and to have this discussion. This is the beginning of a discussion on this topic, which we will be following up with. We will be asking you to put in your questions into chat. This is not a webinar format, so there's no Q&A. So as we're going, if you have questions, please put them in chat. We only have an hour. We will try to get to as many questions as we can today. And the ones we don't get to, we will try to get you some answers to as follow-up. I'm going to turn this over to Paul, our program manager for the Safe Network. And a thank you to both Beth Black and Clint Sandusky for joining us today as our speakers. It's all yours.
Thank you, Deborah. So you've got the admit. This is, as Deborah said, a big topic, and there is a e-bike training for teens program that I've been sharing with the community throughout the state. Back in August, did a few sessions on this. There's been a lot of interest in it, and we will touch on that for just a tiny bit because it's not about that training specifically, but I will certainly be promoting it and encouraging everyone to take advantage of the training. And I will share that later on. But this really is a conversation with Beth Black, and Clint Sandusky. So Beth has a large background, extensive background in education, and particularly with youth, and also writing. She is a former bike shop owner. She's not affiliated with any particular bike brand, so as a full disclosure there. And it's a book that she wrote that caught my interest, which is the Caring Parents Survival Guide, the Caring Parents E-Bike Survival Guide. Great book, because really that's who we need to be communicating with. And so really interested in Beth's perspective on this. She has a lot of strategy she'll share more about. And then we'll get to Clint Sandusky, longtime law enforcement career, specifically with Bike Patrol and training. Talk more about Clint in a moment. And we'll save some time to address some of the questions that we are bound to get in the chat towards the end here. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth. Thank you very much, Beth, for joining us. The floor is yours. Okay.
Up here. Thank you. Hello, everyone. To learn more about me, please visit belmontproject.com/about. I just want to share that this is a sneak peek of the new Bellmont Project website that's currently under construction. The new site will debut in a few months, so please bookmark belmontproject.com to see how the current website develops into this. Now, I'd like to quickly mention a specific challenge for the East Coast that's coming up on October 17 through 19. Currently, each year there are 2 such events, one at each coast. The last Sur-Ron Mega Ride was in Los Angeles, and the next will be in Miami, featuring group rides, stunt competitions, and more. Bear in mind that most states consider electric dirt bikes like Sur-Ron as illegal to ride on public streets. So this one's in Florida, but there are very popular online influencers along the eastern seaboard who ride Sur-Rons. I wouldn't be surprised if more Sur-Rons show up in your region as a result of the online and on-site promotions that will be part of this event. So what do we do about that? Because we're dealing with an industry that is propelled by marketing events like that one, coupled with some industry neglect of child safety, I saw the need for a robust strategic plan that addresses the many aspects of e-bike safety. My process for creating the Bellmont Project's 6-point plan included noting major stakeholders in the situation. That led me to begin with riders and their families, the first 2 points in the plan. The following points speak to civic leaders, other decision makers, and eventually to the entire community in seeking a more positive outlet for e-bike sports enthusiasts. Let's take a closer look at each point. Wait a second. Compliance motivation means convincing riders to follow the rules by presenting a clear picture of the real-life risks for consequences if they don't, and then helping them work with parents to manage their behavior. In effect, we're helping young people design their own riding experiences by developing a more mature mindset so they can handle the responsibilities and still enjoy the freedom and fun of e-bike riding. I've created the Incline program as one initiative to serve this point. Let's learn a little more about that. It's one thing to teach the rules of the road. It's another thing entirely to change immature attitudes. Formerly called Scared Safe, and if you pick up the book today, that's what it's called in the parents' book. The Incline program offers compassionate, engaging, and authentic video presentations from many stakeholders, including first responders, ER doctors, crash victims, and their families. Initially designed as a diversion program component, this behavior management experience can make all the difference for teens who have been cited, but now it's also considered appropriate for teens who are just starting out with an e-bike. In accordance with classical instructional design principles, each session in this modular program follows that video presentation with an honest group discussion of what they have just seen and heard. After the discussion, they continue with thought-provoking exercise, such as a letter to loved ones. I want to stress that this is neither a punishment nor a set and cement plan for what should happen to that participant. Instead, this is an opportunity for that teen to sit with a parent or guardian and think more deeply about what they would want their family and friends to do if they experience a crash that leaves them in a persistent vegetative state. It's not an easy assignment, but it does motivate deeper thinking about real-life consequences, and it gives parents a chance to think about how they could prevent this fate for their family. And that brings us to consumer awareness. Means helping parents learn how to shop for legal e-bikes rather than leaving them to trust sometimes misleading sales pitches. I was in an e-moto shop recently in San Clemente, California. And though I could see numerous overpowered bikes around the shop, the salesperson announced that every bike in the shop was a legal e-bike. We were her only customers, and she was very polished in her salesmanship. As soon as I corrected her, she hastily pointed out the few legal models in the store and then pushed the conversation toward what customers really want. Are parents ready for that kind of situation in a store or online? This comic says it all. The fact is, they don't always blurt out the truth. Retailers sometimes make more money on illegal models, and they don't always ask who's going to be riding them. So we can help parents stand up tall and shop for legal e-bikes. In my book, The Caring Parents E-Bike Survival Guide, I provide the questions shoppers need to ask, the answers they should expect, and what they should look for in a legal e-bike. They'll know when it's safe to buy, or when they should run out the door. It's currently available on Amazon. Eventually, it'll also be for sale on my new website. The best time, in my opinion, to get this book is just before they go shopping for the holidays. And then FYI, the second time to read this book is just as summer begins, because summer is also known as the 100 deadliest days, when kids are out riding around town. At that time, I recommend the chapters on managing their bike safety features, how to check for tampering, and coaching a teen on developing important critical thinking skills to defy peer pressure or online influencers. Policies and communications best practices. That may seem buried in the middle of this plan's list. I get that, but it truly is one of the most important parts of the plan. Helping leaders select the best options for e-bike safety training and infrastructure improvements, as well as initiating their best practices for creating an informed police department, as well as communicating with retailers, residents, parents, and teens, can make all the difference. And as helpful as all that can be, well, to be honest, I have to add that in my opinion, a patchwork approach, making fragmented improvements city by city, is an ineffective waste of each municipality's limited funds. But there is hope. And Paul, if you got that link, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Regarding the training?
The one about the press release.
God,
I am very pleased. For those of you who don't already know, New Jersey is helping to lead the way nationally. Earlier this month, on September 5th, U.S. Congressman Josh Gottheimer announced a new federal action to protect children from what they see as the alarming rise in e-bike accidents. You may find that link as he's putting in the chat, or feel free to reach out to me for it later. I understand that there are mixed feelings about this. But I want to just get off my script for a second and say, our answer is to get vocal. You're in New Jersey, you're in his district, and it's your opportunity to speak up and say what you want to have in an e-bike safety plan. So to quote the press release, the Congressman's e-bike safety plan includes new legislation to increase federal investments for states to create e-bike safety plans and increase public awareness around safe riding practices. Listed in the description, however, the press release states that they will provide crash data. I have to admit, when I Googled New Jersey e-bike crash data, the answer Google gave me was that New Jersey has none because there is no separation of reporting on e-bike crashes from standard bicycle crashes. Now, if that proves true, I have to tell you, it's not just a New Jersey situation. Other states are working to improve the reporting process, though admittedly, it's complicated. A lot of e-motos masquerade as e-bikes with fake pedals. So when first responders are quickly trying to assess and assist, they may assume that what they see on the ground is an e-bike. Many first responders are ill-equipped in materials, training, and even time at an incident to report correctly on whether a bike was a legal model or if it had been tampered with. The Bellmont project will soon introduce a large-scale initiative to offer our recommendations for best practices. I'm gratified to see that your region is already working together on e-bike initiatives, because this is how solutions will truly work. When all cities in a region work together, they're empowered to help manage safety comprehensively. Now, I know that Paul is already talking about this, but I do believe as part of what I'm doing with best practices, I believe that a strategic and effective approach to start of school year training should include, for one, rules of the road, and then also cycling savvy's advanced training that includes situational awareness that teens are not going to get anywhere else, and also behavior management with the incline program. Make all three forms of training required before kids can park at school. Hey, better yet, set it up in a fun e-bike rodeo that also includes checking kids' bikes for safety issues and providing additional maneuvering practice. I'll admit, a whole day event is a bit more time, effort, and work than the current 1-hour basic safety class that's usually required for kids to park at their school. But doing this can prevent a lot of heartache.
And Beth, I just want to jump in for a second and say I added the link in the chat, and I'm not going to play this, any part of this training other than I'm going to suggest everyone take that link and at some point look at that little 2-minute trailer. Or if you look at course overview and you scroll through that, you'll see an overview of how the outline of the training. And I just can't imagine any parent of a teen who wants them riding or is contemplating their teen riding an e-bike not to look at this as an excellent resource for them to invest in. I say invest. It costs $35 and you can access the training over and over. There's a lot of material in there. That's about the extent of what I'm going to say around the e-training. Parents need to get it, and not just for their teens. They should view it also. I'll leave it at that. Back to you, Beth.
You know, Paul, I have to add, I have guided bike rides, tours. I took seniors on the Gap ride. I've had a lot of experience with riding my e-bike. And I took the adult cycling savvy in-person class here in Irvine. Carrie came and taught it, and I learned things that will change the way that I ride. It was very informative, and I think every kid should be taking this class. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. All right, the next point is informed enforcement. And that's more than most people realize. We should promote a healthy understanding of e-bike law in every member of a police force. And I guess I'm wishful thinking there, but from fraud investigation to recovering stolen bikes, everyone in uniform should know exactly what they are dealing with. In my hometown of Irvine, officers had some of us e-bike professionals shaking our heads when they posed with a kid and his recovered stolen bike for a really bragging social media post. They were so proud to get this kid's e-bike back. The only problem? It was an illegal e-moto. Of course, the traffic division must be fully informed and engaged in supporting legal e-bikes for teens. They're also on the front lines of managing teen riding conduct. Take a good look at this photo. The New York officers we just saw were outmatched when they tried to deal with Wavy Michelle. Yes, 2 Ys. This rare female e-bike influencer rewards young male riders for performing risky stunts in traffic in New York by pointing at them and shrieking with delight. And she has developed some fame for escaping the police by lying and racing away. She's in New York, but she rides a Sur-Ron in many of her videos. I wouldn't be surprised if she attends the Sur-Ron Mega Ride down in Florida. It is an opportunity to promote herself. Now take a look at the comments on the right. This TikTok screen is just a small sample of the fame she's enjoying. Even more so on YouTube, I have to say. And her fans think it's hilarious when she lies to the police and flees from them. She is modeling the behavior. So the big question is, how do communities get past the crowd of online influencers? How do we combat the way our kids are being led to an anti-hero mindset? To me, the answer is clear. We need to offer something better. With the Incline program, we motivate legal compliance, but we should also start thinking about inspiring better conduct. And here's the first step. Infrastructure improvements. Of course, they start with Vision Zero types of safety. I'm not going to argue with you on that. We can all agree that safety by design is crucial. I argue that infrastructure design can go much further than the intersections, streets, and paths. Many cities can be helped by rethinking their recreational facilities as valuable infrastructure. This picture shows 2 side-by-side pump tracks in the city of St. George, Utah. The Bellmont Project's Facebook page has a link to an awesome video you really have to see, showing an e-bike rider in action on the larger pump track. Or if you can't find it, just email me and I'll send you the link. It's really pretty amazing. And speaking of pump tracks, just as past generations created skateboard parks and training facilities that rocketed skateboards from being the scourge of the sidewalks to an Olympic sport, infrastructure changes across your region might just give everyone a chance to be proud of their e-biking teams. Pump tracks are popping up in communities across the nation, and we can make them even better by considering their use for e-bikes too. Now, there are two basic choices in pump tracks, built-in and portable. If you look at these pictures, on the top left and center bottom pictures, we see examples of built-in pump tracks. The others shown are portable, modular, customizable tracks that cities could use for training and competitions. Move them to different parks and draw kids away from the streets, which leads us to the sixth and final point. Developing e-biking as a sport is how we inspire better conduct. Now, the first requirement cities must enforce is that in order to participate, to train, to win prizes, to have fun with the gang, the kids will keep their street riding record clean. The infrastructure improvements can play a role as cities develop safe spaces to train, ride, and compete for prizes. Let's draw them away from the busy intersections. And we can also rethink motocross as we work with manufacturers to invest in legal ways to profit from their motorized bike products. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Clint, who is speaking next, found a track in San Diego that offers electric dirt bike training to teens. Imagine where that could lead, given some widespread effort in that direction. And I want to thank you, everyone, for your interest in the Bellmont project and ABEA, and for my 6-point plan. Please feel free to reach out via email. Remember to check that website now and then the new one later. And be sure to follow my new Instagram account. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. So I'll leave this, if you could just leave that slide up for just a minute. So Clint Sandusky is our next presenter. And I just want to reinforce the idea of the training. The teen e-bike training, or e-bike training for teens, is a great training tool. I added the link in the chat. It's the same program that I had shared through the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition with a couple, actually 3 different Zoom sessions. And I quickly realized that that's not the way to deliver it. It's just way too much material. And it doesn't give the individuals the benefit of having that material to review over and over again. So I am suggesting that we all get parents to short sessions to educate them about the bikes, to share the training, and to, learn more about strategies for monitoring their e-bikers, and even things like the idea of the sports. I'm intrigued, Beth, about the whole idea of really encouraging the athleticism and the fun recreation in a safe space versus leaving it up to on the street. So Clint is a cycling savvy instructor candidate here. He's a longtime trainer with the law enforcement. And Clint, I'm going to ask you if you could explain just a little bit about what kind of training is, how it might be a little bit different for law enforcement, and as well as your experience with just managing, enforcing the law as you get into your presentation. But thank you very much for joining us. And I think it's really great that we have, representative law enforcement with a long career in law enforcement, specifically around bikes and e-bikes. Take it away, Clint.
Thanks, Paul. And let me share my screen here. All right. So real quickly, as Paul mentioned, I'm retired law enforcement from California, Southern California, which is really the epicenter of all this e-bike discussion. Sadly, you know, the media picks up on this, and cities, law enforcement agencies. In law enforcement, we're good at being reactive to negative behavior. But I have to tell you, when I'm out there riding, you know, the beach cities of SoCal are now up here in Idaho near Boise, and the beautiful Boise River Greenbelt, which a lot of people enjoy on bicycles, e-bikes, e-scooters, walking. I see a lot of good behavior too. So, you know, it's just not all about the bad behavior. Being retired law enforcement, I can speak my mind a little bit more. So everybody, you're going to get it real from my perspective, and just not in California, which I too still have an influence with law enforcement and the bicycle community, but also up here in Idaho, but across the country. I'm part of an organization, and you'll see it here in a second, called the International Police Mountain Bike Association. In fact, in New Jersey, you have several IPMBA instructors. One I just talked to down in southern New Jersey as part of this presentation. So I kind of keep a beat on what's going on nationwide. And it seems like the two coasts are getting hit the most. I also present for the bicycle community and industry. So I've kind of got a heartbeat of what's going on there as well. So real quickly, like Paul said, I got paid to ride a bicycle all day long for 23 years. And also into retirement. I was a California Post. That's the state organization that certifies law enforcement officers. I was a certified Bike Patrol Instructor for 30 years, involved in Cycling Savvy, as you can see. Also still involved in our California Bicycle Advocacy Organization called CABO, advocating for bicycles' rights. So in my retirement, I have gotten into advocacy and also you know, influencing you know, the legislature. So, and you're probably wondering, okay, Clint, what's your e-bike experience? Well, I'm an e-bike instructor, presenter, author, consultant, advocate. I mentioned my work with IPMBA. I wrote all their policy and their e-bike course for cops, because cops need to know how to ride their bicycles, especially their e-bikes, safely. In fact, above and beyond the general public, because we ride sidewalks and tight places and stuff. And you know, I wouldn't be a very good presenter, Paul, if I didn't commute on at times, run errands, trained on, patrolled, and raced on e-bikes. And of course, during those races, I crashed on e-bikes, and it hurts a little bit more than a conventional bike. So I want to start out my presentation with the following three statements that I want you to consider during my presentation, especially because e-bikes are faster. We all know they're heavier and at times less nimble, especially the fat tire e-bikes. And this is especially important for our teens who haven't developed that spatial awareness yet, being able to judge speed and distance and stuff like that. So here's my first statement. I apologize, I stole this from Spider-Man, but this is really true, whether it's for adults or teens. Great speed comes great responsibility. The second one, the faster you go, the faster you can get in trouble. And I think we can all understand that as well. But here's the last one, which even some of my law enforcement friends haven't considered. The faster you go, the more you need to move left away from the right-hand edge of the roadway and control the lane. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Because most of your hazards, debris, sight lines, are all mostly on the right-hand edge of the roadway. Talking about speed, Cycling Savvy, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, this flyer. But on the backside, we talk about speed. And with more speed requires, and you can see some of the things you need to do when you go faster. That is, if you choose to go faster, and let's face it, we Americans like to go fast. So, but that requires more responsibility and understanding and skill. I think it's important because there's still a lot of confusion out there, Paul and Beth and everybody, about what is an e-bike. And I think I saw in the chat some comments about that. Even amongst law enforcement, example, California was the first state back in 2016 to adopt People for Bikes 3-class system and the modern definition of an electric bicycle. But I still find there's some officers that still don't quite know what an e-bike is. But before we answer what an e-bike is, let's answer what it isn't. So it's not a moped. It's not a motor-driven cycle. It's not a motorcycle. And it's not this gas-powered motorized bicycle. And it's certainly not this. Thankfully, this company, from everything I've seen, is out of business. They were actually advertising and selling to law enforcement agencies this as an e-bike. And you see the bicycle patrol officer on the right. Is he wearing any motorcycle safety gear, including a motorcycle safety helmet? No, it's bike gear. And, this is what we call an out-of-class electric vehicle. However, in California, Idaho, and many other states, whether it's actually in their traffic codes or not, they're just saying, hey, these things are or electric motorcycles, and therefore, they're towing them, storing them, citing the individual for not having a motorcycle license, registration. You get it. So that is not an e-bike. And I don't know if you can see, but it's got some pedals on there, but they're worthless. They're fake pedals. They're inoperable. So because I come from law enforcement, I'm a statutes geek. I get into laws, especially bicycle and e-bike laws. So I did my research. So it varies state to state. Now, your state considers an electric bicycle, or we say e-bike, as a low-speed electric bicycle. And so what does that mean? Some of the key things, and we just had kind of talked about it just a second ago, it has to have fully operable pedals. It has to have an electric motor of less than 750 watts, and it has to meet the requirements of one of two classifications. And there's the statute right there under the New Jersey revised statute. So you have two classes of e-bikes in New Jersey compared to a lot of states like California that actually has three. So here's the class 1 low-speed electric bicycle. It's pedal assist only, and the pedal assist ceases at 20 miles an hour. You can pedal beyond that if you're strong enough, but the motor stops at 20. So here's your other classification of an e-bike, class 2, which a lot of the kids like, the throttle. So it still has to have operable pedals, but if you choose so, you can use a throttle to propel the bike solely up to 20 miles an hour. Anything beyond that is not a legal low-speed electric bicycle in your state. But going back, I guess, Paul, it's within the New Jersey Department of Transportation, which is a little confusing. After it lists the two legal classes of e-bikes, it then states class 3 / motorized bicycle. I get it, because yeah, most states have a class 3. It's a legal e-bike, but it's a little confusing because you actually have a separate statute for motorized bicycles, so which is not a low-speed electric bike. So it's a little misleading. Under this statute here, I call it the catch-all section for you all. It talks about how people that ride low-class electric vehicles have the right to ride on the roadway, etc. That you shall not, and it's a crime, you shall not modify an e-bike. It's got to have a label, a fixed label that talks about the class of the e-bike, the top speed, as well as the motor wattage. So this is kind of the catch-all section. Going online, I found this one from the Cyclist Choice. I think it's a very clear and concise chart of class 1 and class 2 e-bikes. And then it also mentions the motorized bicycles, which I said, of course, are not e-bikes. Paul had shown me this New Jersey micromobility guide, and that's where I found it got a little confusing when they said class 3 / motorized bicycles. So there's some resources out there for you as well as from People for Bikes. This is not as detailed, but they put out electric bicycle guides for each state, including the District of Columbia. So that's a nice resource to go to, including it also gets into off-road riding as well. So a great resource that you can go to People for Bikes on. Okay, let's get into roadway and path interactions, because I know, Paul, that was one of the topics you wanted to talk about. And so if we believe this cartoon, and there are motorists out there that hate bicyclists. I've had stuff thrown at me, cars threaten to brush us. I don't know that we can do anything about those people that just hate bicyclists. But I think they're far and few between, because I think most people are decent, and they don't want to throw stuff at bicyclists. They don't want to brush them off the road. So these people, I don't know that we're ever going to be able to change them until they get pulled over by law enforcement and there's consequences. But there are those people out there. But for those people, those motorists that are cooperative and are responsible, Cycling Savvy on our main page, we have a motorist frequently asked questions. Common question motorists ask, like, why is that bicyclist controlling the lane? Or why are they doing this or that? So that answers many of their questions, and that's a great educational tool for we that are bicycle advocates or educators to help better educate motorists as to why we do what we do. Now, I know, like I had said earlier, local government and law enforcement is good at reacting to concerns from the community and stuff. And like I said, I think there's a lot of people riding e-bikes doing the right thing, including teens. But sadly, the media always picks up on this. So concerns with e-bike use, we're seeing it across the country because of the concerns, more and more electric bicycle enforcement, and sadly, restrictions due to bad behavior. And as an example, in the city of Carlsbad, which is down in San Diego County near the border, Carlsbad, a few years back, the city council actually dedicated $2 million to target e-bike problems. And I was one of the instructors that went down there. And to kind of piggyback off of Beth, we trained the trainers, meaning we trained law enforcement to train their community, because I guess I can be honest, and I apologize if there's any brothers and sisters from law enforcement listening in, but sometimes officers from the traffic division and motor cops don't necessarily understand bicycle laws and now all the new e-bike laws. So I guess that's where I'm in a unique position to help educate the enforcers. And sadly, we're seeing more of this. And I know there's been at least one incident. Paul, you can probably tell me of more incidents in New York City. Sadly, somebody riding the e-bike, and this was up in Northern California on a shared use path. The e-bike rider, and when you combine velocity and mass, bad things happen. And sadly, the pedestrian died. So, so hopefully through education and reinforced by enforcement, as well as we encouraging people to do the right thing, hopefully we won't see tons more of this. With that, now let's get into some strategies. If you can see the top two slides, pedestrian behavior and edge behavior. there's conflicts there, especially the middle one, edge behavior. And especially the right hook. That means the motorist overtaking you and making a right turn in front of you because they underestimate your speed, especially somebody on an e-bike, especially if you're riding a class 2 e-bike with a throttle. You know, you're not pedaling. People who ride e-bikes, they're more upright. They may be in their street clothes. They may not be showing signs of exertion. And I can see how very easily a motorist may underestimate somebody's speed and right hook them, especially at an intersection. There's left crosses, drive outs, side swipes if a bicycle is on the edge, meaning up against the curb or the edge of the roadway. And then also dooring. There's a story out of Boston a few years ago, a 70-year-old cyclist, and it wasn't in the article, but he was riding an e-bike, and he was sadly riding in the what we call door zone bike lane, within the reach of the door. I probably was never educated to where you have to stay at least 5 feet away from parked cars to avoid that. And he hit the door and ended up dying simply because nobody told him, I would assume, stay away from those door zone bike lanes. So you see the bottom one, driver behavior, especially at intersections. If you control the lane, you can see how the bicyclist has a much better vantage point of everything going around him. He has better sight lines to cars, and the cars have better sight lines to him. He has more time to react and mid-block there. He's controlling the lane, so there's no buzz passing or side swiping, and he's avoiding the door zones. Now, I get it, folks, that driver behavior may seem odd to you, but in all 50 states, per your vehicle codes and the exceptions to what we call the far to the right rule, where you have to stay as far to the right as is practicable or safe, there are exceptions where you can control the lane for your safety. But you know, the beauty of California, the beauty of the United States is these 3 behaviors: pedestrian behavior, riding on sidewalks, but we say at pedestrian speed, 2 to 4 miles an hour, or edge behavior, which includes bike lane shoulders, and driver behavior. We can decide. Mostly legally, we have a choice, but that's based on your knowledge, your skill, and your comfort level. But just realize legally you can do that if you choose to, and there's advantages to each, especially driver behavior when you're riding these faster e-bikes, or you're a roadie that can go just as fast. Consumer awareness, I think Beth touched on this a little bit, and within your New Jersey code, it's illegal to modify an e-bike, and you can Google it, e-bike tuning. It's illegal, it's unsafe, and it could void your motor's warranty. There's various ways, especially kids, illegally tune their e-bikes, software, hardware, etc. It's dangerous, don't do it. You know, there's devices called dongles out there that you attach to your motor. Very dangerous. And then also what we've been also talking about, non-e-bikes or out-of-classic electric vehicles that are advertised as sold as legal e-bikes. And I know Beth kind of touched on that. So, you know, that needs to be dealt with. And also battery safety. Now, and law enforcement, it's not immune. No. So this happened 2024 up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, near the border. 2 bicycle cops riding e-bikes came back from, I think, a Friday night patrol, parked it in their storage station. Well, one of the officers plugged their e-bike battery in to be charged. And the worst thing you could do, folks, is leave that battery unattended, especially overnight. Something catastrophic happened, and what we call thermal runaway. The battery started to overheat. It caught on fire. It blew up. And it burned down their entire station, all their e-bikes, all their police motorcycles, their command post trailer, their SWAT vehicle, animal controlled stuff, over $2 million of damage. So now they're officers, and because I talked to 2 Coeur d'Alene officers, now their officers are riding conventional bikes. They will not be allowed to ride any more e-bikes. Terrible. but thankfully nobody was hurt or killed. As you know, all the terrible stories out of New York City of people being injured and being killed because of poorly designed e-bike batteries, poor management, etc. So, hey, we're all in this together. So you can see here, stakeholder-wise, there's many stakeholders. We've talked about parents, we've talked about law enforcement, cycling educators, organizations like AAA, teachers, the media, et cetera, all over the place. A couple of years back, for Bicycle Retailer, for the bicycle industry, I wrote an article on how I believe retailers were the first line of defense in e-bike safety. Now, I still believe that because they have, and like Beth said, they really can influence customers before they go out the door about educating them. But I just submitted an article back to Brain on how I believe bicycle retailers need to help parents ensure e-bike safety. So hopefully they'll really start educating the parents more. And in that article, I mentioned to them, tell the parents how much safer and a legal alternative legal e-bikes are. And with these out-of-class electric vehicles, I will tell you from credible sources, and one in California and one here in Idaho, that law enforcement is considering, besides towing, storing, and pounding these things and ticketing the rider, they may actually start citing the parent for possible child endangerment. So there could be consequences there besides civil if the teen gets into a crash and there's injuries involved. So parents need to know about this. And this just happened in Irvine, California, where Beth's from. Irvine police just caught 5 around 13-year-olds riding these Suron electric motorcycles. And guess what? They all got towed, and mommy and daddy got called, and they ended up driving their kids home and whatever other legal consequences. So law enforcement across the country is stepping up on this. Resources, we've already talked about Cycling Savvy. We do have in-person and virtual courses. Some are paid, some are free. We have a fantastic e-bike safety resources page, which Paul and Beth kind of talked about. And there's that guide, the e-biker's guide to safety and etiquette. You can download it and print it out. Excellent, excellent. I keep some in my truck, so when I see somebody out on the street, I pass it to them. Let's see, let me move on. Of course, we already talked about the teen e-bike course. And if you go on to the teen e-bike course, under articles, there's two excellent articles. On one is your teen ready for an e-bike, and the other one is choosing a safe and legal e-bike for your teen, so they don't end up buying them illegal things or things that they're not ready for age-wise. Another thing, John Allen's Bicycling Street Smarts, a Cycling Savvy edition. We have a new e-bike chapter, and this really is a bicycle driver's handbook. We want to get it into the California DMV and DMVs across the country, but cost is a factor. And of course, Beth's book. To be fair and balanced, yes, there are other courses out there, like this one from the League of American Bicyclists, People for Bikes, in association with the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Not quite sure why they did that. If your teen or you decide to ride off-road, there's some great resources on etiquette, both from the International Mountain Bike Association and now from Tread Lightly, specifically for e-bikes. Now, I will say real fast, I have taken most of these courses except for one, which was over $100. So I said, forget that. I'm kind of cheap in my retirement. But my encouragement to everybody, not all courses are the same in their effectiveness, their quality, and their age appropriateness. So do your homework and shop wisely when choosing a course. And of course, my preference is Cycling Savvy. So Paul, thank you.
Yeah.
Like Beth, there's my email address. And I'm retired, so I live and breathe this stuff. So shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that we can't get to right now, Paul.
All right. Well, thank you, Clint, and thank you, Beth. So I want to ask you both, and you have a moment to think about a really short, condensed version of how people can identify legal and illegal electric bikes in a, if you could put a few words together to describe that. And what I want to remind everybody is that, we're focusing on safety around teen e-bike riders. But I want to frame things with the bigger picture, and that is we, by far, our biggest threat on the roads are drivers of motor vehicles. And drivers of motor vehicles threaten not only themselves, but people outside the car as well, pedestrians included. And we're not very good at that in New Jersey. So we have a major concern. And I want to keep some proportionality here with regards to, our focus on teen e-bike rider behavior and even the bikes. There's a lot of bikes out there, and I was shocked to find out how easy it is to modify Class 2 e-bikes to be able to just use your throttle and go much faster. But if we can focus on behavior and not try to restrict e-bikes overly so, and I say overly so because we've seen some ordinances or some draft ordinances that are trying to throw in Class 1, Class 2 e-bikes with everything else. And e-bikes are part of the future. They're an amazing game changer for people with different abilities. And I can speak to that myself. As I have a lot of hills to climb, and I don't want to make every simple bike ride a big workout. It's my best way to get around town, do errands. But they're an amazing enabler. But we have a challenge with younger riders. So I'm going to come back to both of you with that question about how do you identify a legal bike? And also, we didn't talk about ages. And I know, Beth, we've been talking a little bit about what is an ideal age, if there is one, for parents to allow their kids to start to ride e-bikes. So I'll circle back. Beth, do you have a simple way of identifying a street legal e-bike?
Paul, I can answer that because I teach law enforcement how to do that. So
okay.
Most states have adopted either totally or in part people for bikes, definition of an e-bike, the 3-class system, and some of the general rules. And this is true for California and I believe also New Jersey. New Jersey has a label requirement. So I believe most of the states or all the states, there's a requirement to have affixed in a prominent position with large enough fonts. Like I said, 3 things: the class of the e-bike, the top assisted speed, and the motor wattage. Sadly, you can go online and order some, or if you're whiz enough, make some and put some on. So that's the first thing I tell law enforcement, and it would be for parents or anybody else purchasing to look at. Go to that brands and models website and see what it says. I'm always very leery when a brand doesn't list those things, like what class, top speed, what the motor wattage is. That makes me very leery that maybe they are selling, what we call an out-of-class electric bike. I mean, if you do take a test ride, of course, wear your helmet, get a briefing from the bike shop on how to operate it first, and hopefully you've ridden a conventional bike, but because I think that's a good foundation, especially for our teens before they get to these faster, heavier, and less nimble e-bikes. Take it out for a ride and do the pedal assist, or if it has throttle, and see what speed it gets up to. And if it goes beyond that, based on the classification, there's some problems there. So those are some simple ways. I mean, there's some ways that law enforcement can also detect, and I actually teach them how to look for illegally modified bicycles, especially with these dongle devices, or they end up, people end up moving the speed sensors and the speed cadence to trick the bike to go faster. So, I mean, that's the basic thing. Now, I will also say one thing. When I talked to that officer from down in southern New Jersey, they've been told, and I don't know if this is a statewide thing, and I'm sure if there's people from law enforcement, but they've been told down there, their department at least, not to chase violators on bicycles, e-bikes, and motorcycles due to the liability and the higher risk of crash and injuries. More and more agencies, especially if they can't afford airships like helicopters, are going to drones. And I know here in Idaho, drones have been successful catching those kids trying to get away from the cops on Surons. So law enforcement's getting wise to some of this stuff. So I hope, Paul, that kind of just quickly gave me an overview about how to.
Let me chime in.
Yeah, no, and I want to cut back to Beth and get your perspective on this soundbite.
So Clint gave you a really good outline of what to look for when you're shopping for a new bike. Randy Profita, who runs Trails In Bike Shop, is also on the board of ABEA, and I was in his shop last year, and he showed me a little margarine tub filled with little pieces of brakes. And he said the kids are modifying them in a lot of ways that don't necessarily make sense. If you're out, say, driving your car, I was last year, a kid on a what looked like a regular e-bike, riding on the sidewalk alongside me. I clocked him at 45 miles per hour. Clearly, he had modified his bike. You can tell by the behavior that they're riding. Now, I have nothing against power wheelies. I think they're a lot of fun. I don't know that I would survive one myself, but I think they're fun to watch in the right setting. The thing about power wheelies is that some kids, not all of them, who do this have been told to remove or tamper with their braking system in order to pop that power wheelie. Or they might be dismantling or disabling the kill switch, the throttle interlock safety device. So there are different ways that they're tampering that may not be as obvious, but you can tell by the behavior, I think, how fast he's going. And if he's able to stop. I think some of the accidents that we're seeing, they really look like kids who just couldn't come to a stop and ran into something. And that makes me suspicious about their braking system.
Good point. Yeah, so things get modified for different results. Something you mentioned in your book, which was something I never even thought about for testing how fast a bike would go, would be to safely now raise the rear wheel and hit the throttle and watch the speedometer as you're lifting the bike up and not letting the back wheel turn. And the motor you would hear the motor cut off at that 20 mile an hour or not. And that's another indicator of testing the bike, one way to quickly test the bike. How about a quick, I know we're kind of coming down, we're at the hour. Any thoughts on age of riders and when you think their critical thinking is really ready for an e-bike?
I like what Clint said about teaching kids how to maneuver on maybe a BMX, a regular bike first. And I think that there should be a protocol in place when they do have training camps like Woodward does with skateboarding and BMX bikes. Why not add e-biking as a sport to something like that, where kids know that if they build their skills at a younger age, in my book, I think 14, when they're going into high school, is a good age to start on maybe a class 1 or class 2, maybe. I know there's a lot of argument about whether kids under 16 should be, using a class 2 with a throttle, but a class 2 that's legal, and they are, if they're a class 2, the throttle will also stop at 20 miles per hour. So that can help kids in ways that you may not realize. My partner Brian is a type 1 diabetic, and the reason we got type 2 bikes is that he can continue to ride along with the family even if his blood sugar is tanking a little bit. So there are a lot of other considerations. But I know that Tasha Borner, representative based out of San Diego County, tried to get the state of California to start at age 12 for e-bikes. And Unfortunately, the state pushed it back to San Diego as a pilot opt-in program, and they were unable to get too many cities to opt into that. Parents are just looking for a way to get out of the car driving the kids to and from school, and they want to have something for them. And they're not really cognizant of all the manipulation that's going on with their kids.
Yeah. So bottom line, these e-bikes, particularly class 2 e-bikes that have a throttle, very easily modified to go much faster. If they don't modify them, the max speed is 20 miles an hour with assist. So going down a hill, you can go faster. They are a game changer for society. We want to embrace electric bikes, and we don't want to overreact to some bad behavior. And we need, I think, maybe more action on the bad behavior of motor vehicles, and also the need for just general traffic calming amongst all road users. So I want to thank you both for joining us. I appreciate your time on this and your preparation. We will be sharing this webinar recording on our website. I've been asked if you're able to share your slide deck with folks. We really appreciate being able to add that as well. We have done that on occasions to our website, so people can take a look at that. There, every municipality I can think of has got this on their mind. They're addressing what can they do. And as you said earlier, Beth, we want to be at the table when these decisions are made and influenced with proper legislation. We'd like to focus on behavior, and at least if we are creating some restrictions, we want them to be accurate restrictions and appropriate when it comes to what kind of classifications and bikes kids are riding. We will continue to work at this issue, focusing on getting parents to understand the bikes that they're getting their kids. A class 3 e-bike, as I understand it, does not have a throttle. It is pedal assist up to 28 miles an hour. And that's a big difference. They're not going to be popping wheelies probably on a class 3 e-bike. And it is faster than probably most teens need to go. I have a class 2. I love the throttle. The throttle is a very effective feature for getting started. Smoother starts. The transitions are where most people have problems. So I wouldn't ban throttles, but they do have their place. And 20 miles an hour is plenty fast for going around town. You really don't need to go faster. So that's, I guess, my little 2 cents. As I mentioned, we shared in the links a number of these trainings. It's going to be more activity on this. And again, the idea is to get the parents to be knowledgeable of what they're buying and to be able to share the training, get their kids through the training, themselves through the training, and then help manage behavior moving forward. And I see, Deborah, you have some closing thoughts.
Yeah. First of all, thank you both very much for all that information. You kept everybody here for this hour, and that says a lot about the interest in this whole topic. I just want to say a couple of quick things to sort of sum up. One is, and it was mentioned in the chat, New Jersey has a great e-mobility guide that the Voorhees Transportation Center put out with DOT. And that's available online, and the link, Hannah put the link, I believe, in chat. There is a lot of conflation around what an e-bike is with class 1, class 2, class 3, and other e-motos. And we are seeing a lot of that not only in the press, but also in local ordinances and the way that e-bikes are referred to. It is a major, I think it's a major issue for local municipalities that are trying to develop ordinances. And Beth, I know you mentioned, and of course we love to hear about New Jersey leading, but legislation like that, which Gottheimer is proposing, has a lot of unanswered questions in it. I want to make it clear that us mentioning it does not mean that the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition or others are endorsing that legislation at this time. There's a lot of
That people step up and take control over it.
Right. There's a lot of questions, right? And I understand you are making the point that it's becoming more visibility so that we can get involved in that conversation. And I think that is absolutely true and very important. So there's a lot more to be said and to be learned for us. And I think the interest in this has shown us we need to do a few more of these, as well as Paul will be putting together a program for e-bike training from the coalition. So look forward to that. And I just want to thank everybody. Again, we will post this webinar probably within a week. And if you're willing to share your slides, we will also post those as well. So thank you, everybody. We'll try to get back to some of these questions and share those with our speakers. And I think that's it for today. Thank you, Paul, for putting this
Thank you
together.
all.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Take care.